All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I'm just going to be doing a quick lesson on this clip that I came across. We we have some Hamites, man, imitating our people. In particular, YNs, which, YNs stand for young niggas, because that's who they're dressed like and who they're acting like, man. And I just find it funny how anytime, the heathens proclaim their hatred for us, but yet they try to be just like us, man. It's hilarious to me, The heathens must be stopped. So before I play this clip, I'm going to read the copyright disclaimer. It says, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. So this following clip that I'm going to feature is being used for educational purposes only. I'm not making any money off of anyone else's content, So again, fair use, fair use, fair use. Let's check out Ham real quick, man.
For casa chouala. For casa chouala.
Yeah, man. They look goofy as hell, man. But that is how, young niggas dress. They be having on all black. You see one of them got a ski mask on, but, usually they have on hoodies, in 80 to 90 degree weather, Nike Tech, just looking shiesty, man. The only thing these goofy niggas missing is some guns and the rest of them ski masks. But, they got the red flags like, they're game banging, but either way it goes, man, they look goofy as hell, man, and this is just, more proof that we, and when I say we collectively, the Israelites, that we're the salt of the earth, man, because the heathens, they hate us, but they want to be just like us, man, because we're not like any other people on this earth, man. We're the greatest people on this earth. We're the Lord's people, The Lord made us his special people, so I'm going to play this one also, right?
when K-pop stans say keep K-pop Korean, because why are we acting like culture just spawned out of nowhere? K-pop is built on hip-hop, R&B vocals, black dance styles and fashion, our slang, which is literally just AAVE, and yet people still deny it. Like you can't eat up trap instrumentals, baggy fits, grills, braids, and swagger, and then suddenly turn into a culture purity warrior when black fans rightfully points it out. It's always don't bring race into it, but race was already in it, the moment the industry started stealing from black culture and making money off of it. Saying keep K-pop Korean makes you look dumb and also hypocritical as hell.
K-pop sounds, hair, fashion, choreography, and music videos have been heavily influenced by black culture and black people. K-pop as we know it today is commonly believed to have been kickstarted by early 90s K-pop group Seo Taiji and the Boys. The group is visibly heavily influenced by black culture, from the appropriation of lock to the baggy jeans and baggy clothes, sagging pants and gold chains. And the more K-pop rose in popularity, the more influences from black culture could be seen. The influence that black culture has had on K-pop is clearly evident and obviously strong, and blackness continues to influence K-pop today just like it did in the 90s. So does keep K-pop Korean really mean that they want all non-Korean influences removed from the genre altogether? But if that's the case, what would K-pop be without the appropriation of black and black culture? Or does it simply shine a light on the anti-blackness within the genre and the community? They are fine appropriating black culture as long as it's through the face, voice, and body of a non-black Korean.
But what, as you can see, even with this clip, over there in Asia, specifically, over there in China, Japan and Korea, they copy us over there too. Moab and Ammon, they copy our style. They try to imitate us as well because you clearly see, those, will look to be Moabite women, so-called Chinese women, doing it, the cheer dances like, they do in the colleges, which primarily make up who? Jakes, depending on what school it is, but when it comes to, the cheerleaders and the marching bands, who primarily makes up, those groups, Israelites, man, because we know, the Israelite woman, as it says in the scriptures, she's lively, man, when she's, in righteousness anyway, but, the Israelite woman is lively, our women can dance, so can the men, but, just focusing on the women at this, particular point, but, the women can dance. And what, the women of the other nations copy our women, because again, we're a very superior people. We're an amazing people. The heathens are amazed by us, so much, but what? They hate us because they're our enemies, man, so they hate us, but, and yet they try to be just like us. And it's not just Ham, it's not just Moab and Ammon, it's all of the nations, man. All of them try to be like us in some form of fashion. Because just like out here in Michigan, you got Ishmaelites, man, that do the exact same thing, that try to be like Jake, in particular Judah, running around with their pants sagging, doing the same shit that Jake does, but yet what, man? They hate us, man. It's just hilarious to me, seeing the heathens imitate us, man. They'll never give us credit, for the things that we do, but yet you'll steal our style, man, with no problem. And the first clip I seen, with those Hamites, one of them looked like he could have possibly been a Jake, but then again, maybe not, but those were definitely Hamites, man. You clearly see they stiff, they ain't got no style about themselves, whatever, but, the other clip, with the Moabite women doing the cheer dances, they have some style. It's possibility, it's a possibility that, there could have been some, Israelite foreigners scattered among them, or people that look like the other nations but aren't actually them, so I believe that, some of those so-called Moabite, well, not so-called, but the so-called Chinese women, some of them may have been Israelite women, but it's just hilarious, man. It's hilarious. It is very hilarious to me how, these other nations, they envy us, but they want to be just like us, man. It's hilarious. So I'm just going to grab a few scriptures, man. I'm not going to make this one too long, but this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7, in verse 6. And it says, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord Yahweh thy power. The Lord hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So right, man, the Lord set us apart, which that's what, the word holy means, set apart, man, Kodash, separate, man. He made us separate from the other nations. Just like it says, the Lord chose us to be his special people, and let me look up the word because I forget, the Hebrew word, for special, but it's what? Segula, Segula, Strong's H 5459, Segula, which is the same word for peculiar, but it says what, man? Possession, property, value, property, peculiar, treasure, treasure. So we're the Lord's treasure, man. We're also referred to as the Lord's jewels, man, his precious gems. Because why, man? We're a special people unto him, and he made us above all the nations on the earth. All of the tribes, have their own particular style, their own particular flavor, the way they do things, but what? Judah being the head tribe, even the other tribes, take after the things that the tribe of Judah does, man, But as a whole, man, the heathen nations, they copy us because they're not like us, man, and we're not like them, So let's get this in the book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 19. It says, and the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. Now, this was during the time of, ancient Egypt, when our people were, in captivity to the Egyptians, but it says what, man? That the Hebrew women were lively, man. They weren't like the Egyptian women. So obviously, this is around the time where, Pharaoh was starting to, kill all the male children, so that, a savior wouldn't rise up, from among them, which, he was doing this because of who? Moses, but they're not like us, man. They're not like us. Says the Hebrew women were lively, man. We can clearly see the difference between our women and all the other nations, man. Women are lively, especially, the Negro woman, when she's in her right mind, when she's not, bugging out and, being destructive, she's very beautiful, man. She's elegant, she can dance, man, but the heathen women, they take after that. This is why, again, they grow their hair real long, because again, our women, their hair is supposed to be long, but according to Isaiah the 3rd chapter, the Judite women, the so-called black women in particular, were cursed. The Lord cursed them, man. So that's why a lot of so-called black women have a hard time growing out their hair. Because as it also says in the scriptures that, the glory of the woman is her hair, man. So, we can clearly see how serious our women take their hairstyles, man. Even though a lot of them wear those weaves and wigs, sometimes, not all the time, when they get their hair done, it looks very nice, man. But what? The other nations of women see that, and they want to imitate what our women do, man. So let me grab this one also. Also in Exodus, this is Exodus chapter 11 and verse 7. It says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against any man or beast, that ye may know how the Lord, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So clearly there's a difference between us and them. Those Hamites, man, they're awkward. They're very awkward. All of the heathens are awkward, man, but him in particular, they're a different type of awkward, man. You know, they try to be just like us and they can't imitate us, man. If they try to imitate us, they just don't look right. Like those guys in that video, man. They didn't look right, man. Just whatever type of, clothing, they wear in whatever particular country they were in, man. Just wear that clothing, man. Wear your clothing. Be y'all, man. Be Hamites and be so-called African, man. Y'all not us. Y'all will never be us and we'll never be you, because again, just like Esau, Edom, he proclaims to be the superior race, but no one is trying to be like them. If anything, yeah, you'll have people that try to, brighten their skin and do all of that madness, but who's really imitating the so-called white man? No one. Because they're not lively, man. Because they don't have salt, Let's get that. In book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13, and it says, "Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men." And right, man, we have the salt, meaning, we have flavor, man. Just even the average Jake, man. Obviously every Jake ain't gonna have, the best rhythm when it comes to, dancing, or every Jake ain't gonna know how to sing. But just as a whole, man, we have the salt. We're the salt of the earth. We make everything better, And this is why they try to copy us, because they know, again, that we are an amazing people, that we are the true gods of this earth. This is why, again, when that time comes, the heathens are gonna worship us. Once we get in the kingdom of heaven, because again, even in our lowest state, man, the heathens still admire us. Though they envy us, they still admire us, at our, our capabilities, or our abilities to do certain things, man. Who do you see dominating the sports world? Israelites. The entertainment, world as in general, man. Israelites. And even just the everyday things, man, to the, the trends, the clothing, all of this, man, we make everything better, And this is why the heathens don't like us, because again, we can take something that, man, we can make, come on, man. I can go into this for days, but, it just goes to show you that, this is how you know that we are the biblical Israelites, man. Regardless of whatever these people that try to deny, our identity say, we are the people, because it's clearly not those Israelis that are over there in the land. It's clearly not, those European, Edomites, and it's clearly not the American Edomites, man. You're not the people. No one is trying to, imitate you, No one does the same things that you do, Yeah, you may be empowered, but again, the people aren't trying to be like you. They're trying to be like us. We're in our lowest, estate that we've ever been in. But yet, all different types of people try to be just like us. Again, even though it's negative and it's a fucking stereotype, man. These young niggas running around with these ski masks on, in 90-degree weather, sagging their pants, this, that, and the third. But look at him. They admire that shit, man. They want to be just like these little niggas here in America, running around toting guns and shit, shooting each other up. Though, yeah, that's, that's negative on our part, but at the same time, man, they want to be just like that, man. Their women, want to have bigger butts, bigger breasts, bigger lips, Swipe white women, not all of them, but, I know one personally, that went and got lip filler, man, just so she can have bigger lips. What nation of people have naturally thick lips, man? Israelites, man. So I find it funny every time I see videos like this, man, because, again, the heathens are awkward. They hate us, pursuing the Psalms 83, man. They're our enemies, and they're all confederate with each other, man. They're all in league, to keep us in a lower state, man, though we're not going to stay in this state forever. But, and yet, in our lower state, though they hate us, they still want to be just like us. They admire us, man. They're amazed by us, you know? And why is that? Because we're the Lord's people, and he made us this way. Like it says in Deuteronomy 7:6, and the same thing in Deuteronomy 14:2, we're the Lord's special people, man. He made us above all nations, man. And even though, again, we're in a lower state, we're still above you nations, man. We're still above you heathens, So hate on us all you want, but yet we already know you admire us, you filthy bastards. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of great millstone who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say, Shalom.